A good student never asks a question for this reason, that no answer could really be correct. Certainly couldn't be wholly correct. And for the same reason that was brought out in this entire hour of talking. The truth is spiritually discerned. Nobody could really show you the Christ. Nobody could really tell you what the Christ is. Nobody could show you God. No one can explain what God is. And those really are the most important questions for us to ask. What is God? What is Christ? What is Spirit? But who could answer that? It never has been answered in the entire history of the world, and none of the masters ever attempted to answer it. And that is the reason. When the master says, leave your net and follow me, he is really appealing not to their sense. He is appealing to an inner vision. And only those who have that inner vision could obey. But if you were to ask them why, there is no answer. There is no answer. There is no answer any more than we could give an answer if someone said to us, why don't you take medicine? Look at all the hundreds of millions of dollars worth of medicine that is sold in this country every year. Why don't you ever take a medicine? And there's no answer for that. We have no answer or no reason for our faith that could be explained. It is only something that you can inwardly feel. And so the whole object of our work is to lead up to a point where we actually feel or know what our faith is, but without the ability to explain it to ourselves or to others. And I'm thinking here of the 40th chapter of Isaiah. 40th and perhaps the 43rd. Comfort ye my people, saith your God. Speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem, and cry unto her that her warfare is accomplished, that her iniquity is pardoned, for she hath received of the Lord's hand double for all her sins. The voice of him that crieth in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill shall be made low. The crooked shall be made straight, and the rough places plain, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together, for the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it. Behold, the Lord God will come with strong hand, and his arm shall rule for him. Behold, his reward is with him, and his work is before him. He shall feed his flock like a shepherd. He shall gather the lambs with his arm, and carry them in his bosom, and shall gently lead those that are with young. Have you ever had that experience of knowing, of an inner conviction or confidence that he would feed you, that he would gather you into his arms and carry you through this world, and that he would gently lead you? Have you ever had that feeling or inner conviction that there is a he in whom you can rest, trust? That is the point that everyone comes to that is enabled to leave their nets and follow the Master, follow the Spirit, follow spiritual healing. Lift up your eyes on high, and behold who hath created these things, that bringeth out their host by number. He calleth them all by names, by the greatness of his might. for that he is strong in power, not one faileth. Do you see that conviction that has to come to us, that because he, it, the I of our being is the power, not one of us can fail? Do you see how there is no way for us to gain confidence or to lose fear until that moment of transition when we inwardly sense he has that power, and because he has that power, we will not fail. You see how it brings out not only a sense of humility, it brings out the realization that there is, not quotations in a book, but that there is a he. Hast thou not known, hast thou not heard, that the everlasting God, the Lord, the Creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary? There is no searching of his understanding. He giveth power to the faint. To them that have no might, he increaseth strength. Even the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall, but they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Those, even the young, who depend on their muscle, who depend on their vitality, who depend on their youth, they will find trials and tribulations that will try them and cause them to fail. But they that wait upon the Lord, they that have their reliance in this invisible, they shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. Through what? Yeah, their completeness in God. That their strength is of God, not of I, not of me, not my understanding, not my spirituality, not my power. No, no, no. There has to be that recognition of a he. There has to be that recognition of a presence. Chapter 42. Behold my servant whom I uphold, mine elect in whom my soul delighteth. I have put my spirit upon him. He shall bring forth judgment to the Gentiles. If we haven't that spirit upon us, if we haven't that realization that there is an I empowering us, giving us voice, giving us strength, wisdom, understanding, we're lost. And all these material props will fail us. He shall not cry, nor lift up, nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. A bruised reed shall he not break, and a smoking flax shall he not quench. He shall bring forth judgment unto truth. He shall not fail, nor be discouraged, till he have set judgment in the earth, and the isles shall wait for his law. Thus saith God the Lord, he that created the heavens and stretched them out, he that spread forth the earth, and that which cometh out of it, he that giveth breath unto the people upon it, and spirit to them that walk therein, I, the Lord, have called thee in righteousness, and will hold thine hand, and will keep thee, and give thee for a covenant of the people, for a light to the Gentiles, to open the blind eye, to bring out the prisoners from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. I am the Lord, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise to graven images. No power will be given unto medicine. No power will be given unto manipulations. No power will be given unto your thoughts or my thoughts. No power will be given to anything in earth, but I myself, God, will give to you and to me that which we require. as we turn wholeheartedly in the realization of that presence. I, the Lord, have called thee. Why do you think we are here on earth? Because the Lord, the divine consciousness, has called itself into expression as our individual being. It has called us to a spiritual purpose. And it will hold our hand. But our hand must be out like this. Out like this. Ready for it to be grasped. In confidence that another hand will enfold it, take it over. I, the Lord, have called thee. I, the Lord, will hold thine hand and will keep thee. Think of the confidence that requires to understand that we will be kept throughout all time, throughout all ages, throughout all conditions of health and being. I will keep thee, and I will give thee for a covenant of the people, for a light to the Gentiles. The Gentiles were the ignorant, the pagans. The Gentiles were those who had not yet seen the light. And so, I will give thee for a light, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. Only I, the Father within, can do that. Do you see that? There's where our reliance must be, our confidence must be. It is as if I and the Father were one right here, and all that the Father hath is mine, and I must look only to that Father within and let all the rest of the world go by. And then as I do that, I find the former things are come to pass. New things do I declare. Before they spring forth, I tell you of them. Then we come to chapter 43. But now thus saith the Lord that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel, fear not. For I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine. Don't we fail there? Don't we fail there? Do we have an inner conviction that we belong to God? And that God is in us and through us, governing and guiding and protecting? Do not we feel too often that we are out here in the world alone and trying to find our way back to God instead of realizing we have never left God. God has never left us. Oh no. No, fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine. When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee. And through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. For I am the Lord thy God, the Holy One of Israel, thy Savior. Since thou art precious in my sight, thou hast been honorable, and I have loved thee. Therefore will I give men for thee, and people for thy life. Fear not, for I am with thee. I will bring thy seed from the east, and gather thee from the west. I will say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. Bring my sons from far, and my daughters from the ends of the earth. Even everyone that is called by my name, for I have created him for my glory. I have formed him, yea, I have made him. Bring forth the blind people that have eyes, the deaf that have ears. Let all the nations be gathered together, and let the people be assembled. Who among them can declare this, and show us former things? Let them bring forth their witnesses, that they may be justified, or let them hear and say, it is true. Ye are my witnesses, saith the Lord, and my servant whom I have chosen, that ye may know and believe me, and understand that I am he. Before me there was no God formed, neither shall there be after me. I, even I, am the Lord. Beside me there is no Savior. Yea, before the day was, I am he, and there is none that can deliver out of my hand. Only gain this conviction: I am come that ye might be fulfilled. I am come that ye might be fulfilled. Fulfilled in every way. Physically, mentally, morally, financially. I am come. Turn and gain an inner conviction that there is an I, a divine presence that not only formed us, but having formed us, will never leave us, nor forsake us. And in these moments of our human trials and tribulations, in these moments of our distresses, let us not too quickly believe that God has forsaken us or that we have forsaken God, but remember that even while walking through the valley of the shadow of death, the Father is right there to see us through. Even while walking through the waters, even while walking through the flames, the Father is right there. And instead of looking around for material remedies and material means and material resources, let us look within and realize, I am come, that ye might be fulfilled. Only with your spiritual vision can you behold the Father. Only with your spiritual intuition can you understand that there is a Christ, a divine presence in the midst of you, and that it is greater than any circumstance or condition there is in the outer world. And so, above all things, let us turn to that withinness and realize there whether or not we have heard the voice of the Master telling us to leave our nets, to leave all and follow me, even father, mother, sister, and brother, and see whether or not, if we hear the call, can we obey? Can we trust it? Can we believe it? Can we accept the fact that in the midst of us, in the center of our own being, there dwelleth the Son of God, the Christ, our true spiritual identity, and its name is I, and its name is I am, and that I am is closer to us than breathing. It is nearer than hands and feet. It is the very law and life of our being, but only as we turn in completeness, only as we turn away from seeking our good from person or place or little hills, only in the degree that we can understand the Christ as the Spirit of God in man, the fulfillment of God's plan in man. Only as we spiritually discern that can we come here then and pour our love into the center, not come to the center to draw love out. Come to the center to pour it in. Come to our classes to pour love in, not to draw it out. To share of the Christ that we have already beheld with those who have not yet beheld. There must come a time in the experience of every true student when they no longer come to classes and centers to gain, but rather to help reveal this Christ that they have beheld, reveal it to those now seeking it who have not yet beheld it. Everyone who becomes a practitioner or teacher or leader has in a measure beheld a Christ. The only reason that they now turn to the healing or teaching is to reveal that Christ that they have beheld to the rest of the world. That is our function. But first, it lies within us to realize, not through the human mind do I believe this, even though to the human mind it seems reasonable, nevertheless, there must be a deeper intuition, a deeper consciousness that says to me, I behold the Christ. I behold the Christ even though the world crucified him and placed him in a tomb and placed a rock there, a stone there, and sealed it, and yet I say, I see the Christ walking the street. That is inner vision. That is spiritual vision, and that is the vision necessary for a complete and an utter reliance on the Christ, on the truth, on divine healing. Nothing less will bring our healing. But when we have that, the patient doesn't have to cooperate. The practitioner doesn't have to cooperate. The Christ performs the function in the consciousness of both the practitioner and the patient. Let us take up for a little while this subject of what to get out of or what to put into 1953, because it has a deep significance for us, not for 1953, but for all the days of our existence. And we do want to understand this clearly. Not only for the harmony, the happiness of our own existence or our families, but because of the contribution that we must make to the world. We cannot go out and give to the world what we have found of spiritual healing or spiritual living by talking it or preaching it. We can't even give it to them by making them gifts of the Bible or of the Infinite Way or Science and Health or any book that's written that does offer a measure of spiritual salvation to the world. We can't even give it to the world by giving them free copies of it. Those copies would just lie on a shelf somewhere or find their way into the furnace. You would be surprised how little value there is in giving away truth books. There is a great value in giving one where we observe a need. That represents a degree of love on our part. There is no value in giving the second one. It makes a difference whether we give a 10-cent pamphlet, 25-cent pamphlet, or $2 book, or a $7.50 book. If we give a book to someone whom we believe has a need for it, we have fulfilled our whole duty. And we should never feel called upon to give even the second 10-cent book. The reason is this. If you, out of love, discern someone's need for spiritual meat and drink, and you offer it to them, one of two things must happen. They recognize it, they desire it, and they seek more of it. And if they do that, there's no need for you to give them a second book. They will very quickly have their own. You know, first of all, they're not too expensive. And any person with a 25-cent book can, with love and devotion, if no other way, demonstrate the next 25-cent one and the $2 one. One by one, the person with eagerness, with a hunger for what is in it, will find it. And if not that, they'll find it at a public library. So you see, giving the second one is entirely unnecessary. Because if they haven't found a devotion, if they haven't found their need, if they haven't found what they're seeking in that first one, The second one hasn't anything different in it. It has the same thing stated in a different way. And they won't find any more in the second one than in the first. And so you see that even on such a high plane as offering the wine, the water, the meat, that it must be done gently, sparingly, permitting the other fellow to make their own demonstration in the furtherance of their spiritual good. But now it is much more true that offering books to those who haven't even a recognition of a need for it would be even more of a waste of time, of effort, of money. And so we cannot, through preaching, through going on street corners, putting on radio programs, we cannot save the world, even though we have a principle and a spirit that can save the world, would save the world, if the world could accept it. So in that line, there is nothing that we can put into 1953 or 4 or 5, but there is something that we can put in that ultimately will be the salvation of the world, and ultimately will drive the world to seek madly for this very pearl that we have found. And what we can put in and what we can give to the world is our demonstration of God. By our fruits, not only we will be judged, but will we create a hunger in the minds of the world for what we have got. Not by offering it to them, but by letting them see how we bear witness to it. And so, if it should be that we go through 1953 with a minimum of sin, disease, death, lack, limitation, worry, fear, if our faces show forth just a little bit of the glory of God, the smile of God, if our lives attest to the fact that we have found a spirit, a principle to live by, then you may be assured that in 1954 we will reach 2, 4, 8, 10, 12 of those, eager to know what it is we have found, eager to share in it, eager to be healed and to be taught. And that must be our gift to the world. That must be our contribution to the world. At first it seems very selfish. At first it seems a very selfish thing that we should not concern ourselves with the world at all this year, just concern ourselves with making our demonstration, with showing forth our understanding. Yes, I know how selfish it seems, because I know for many years that I was told how selfish I was to sit in an office with this great truth bottled up and not go out into the world and give it. Many of my friends thought it was a very selfish thing to do when I could be writing a book and going out and teaching it and lecturing. But in here, I knew the answer. I knew that the world wasn't a bit interested in what I had to say unless it could feel that it was being presented out of demonstration. And that unless I could first show it forth in some measure, there was no use talking about it. And so I sat there 16 years waiting. And the same way, it might seem very selfish if you devote yourself this year and next to no concern for the world at all. Let the world go by. We haven't too much to offer it until we have demonstration to offer. Just to offer it words and books is not offering it very much. We have to offer it understanding, and enough understanding to help them demonstrate it. Then when we can go to them, showing forth the fruitage ourselves, and in the position to say, and I can help you too, then are we making the real contribution to the world. And one of these days you will see the world eager to have it. But there must be a group there must be people in the world showing forth the fruitage of the demonstration. I don't have to tell you that that is how the automobile business flourished. When the few automobiles began really to operate and get there, that is when the business began to flourish. Because by the example of those who had them, the rest of us were led into following suit. And it is so in every conceivable way. When you have something and show forth the fruitage, you will find that others want it. And that will be our contribution to this year and next year and many years to come, the witnessing of our demonstration, the ability to show forth that what we preach and teach, we can demonstrate. And by our demonstration will the world come in. Well, all of that comes under grace. All of that is the showing forth of a life by grace. And at this present moment, the world believes that it must succeed by might and by power. It believes that it must win its way through force. And of course, since force has now reached that ultimate beyond which they can't even dream of more force, and since everybody has the same force to work with, no one can gain over another, and there is a stalemate, and that stalemate will continue. There isn't much likelihood of war, I don't think. War couldn't benefit anybody. No one could possibly win a war, so it doesn't seem very logical that there would be one. But the stalemate is there, and that stalemate will always remain as long as we have a power of destruction and someone else has an equal power of destruction. And so the end is not going to come by one having greater force or power than another. The end of the stalemate is going to come, and watch this, when spiritual power rules out material power. That will be the end of war. Not discovering a bomb 10 times more powerful than the hydrogen bomb. Not discovering a bomb a month before the Russians have it, or a month later. That isn't going to end war. That perpetuates war, and that will not end the stalemate. This time, the ultimate of force is sitting on this side of the border, and the ultimate of force is sitting on that side of the border, and neither one can win. And so, to end this stalemate, there must come a new force greater than that ultimate force now held in the United States and Russia. And that force can only be a spiritual force. In some way, it must be proven, it must be shown forth to the world that spirit is the only power, the only real power, and not only that, but that the power of spirit absolutely and completely destroys any other sense of power. That, then, cannot be left to orthodox religious teachings, because they themselves do not believe in the power of spirit to do anything this side of the grave. They themselves do not believe that there is any hope in a religious teaching to end the world's troubles. But the metaphysical movements, and more especially those of a religious, spiritual nature, do understand that the power of the Spirit has already overcome not only sin, but cancer and consumption and polio and paralysis. And therefore, that Spirit is a real power in our human experience, in our immediate experience. And these religious and spiritual movements have also revealed that spirit is a power in all human relationships, in capital and labor relationships, in community relationships, and in many other avenues that are not too well publicized at the present time. And so it is that the Spirit now must reveal itself in a way as to be brought into the wider spheres of government, national and international. How can this be brought about if there aren't enough people in this world showing forth the fruitage of the Spirit in their individual business or in their individual homes or in their individual bodies? And so we call Jesus the example, the way shower. But in this age, spiritual teachings will have to be the example and the way shower, and those spiritual teachings will have to be made manifest in the lives of those who profess them. And so, I give you this. The greatest force, the greatest power on earth is grace. Grace, which is the love of God for God's children, is the only real power there is. And our demonstration of it will be in proportion as we withdraw our dependence, our faith on man, and establish it within ourselves on the power of grace. In other words, assuming as of this moment that I am here and that I have no one out here upon whom to depend, no one to look to, no one to ask anything of, no one to expect anything of, and so I assume within me that my good must come from the Father within. It must come as the gift of God, since humanly I surely don't deserve it, and since humanly I have done nothing to earn it. It must come as the grace of God, as the love of God for his own child. And so I, in my aloneness with God, find myself to be the child of God, looking only to the Father within for my good, for healing, for restoration, resurrection, redemption, support, maintenance, supply, success, harmony, peace, joy, protection, safety, security. Looking only to the Father within and not praying for it, not asking for it, but in this quiet communion, realizing that the love of God must be all-embracing, that the love of God must be all-sufficient for the child of God, that I have no need of any other sufficiency. Thy grace is sufficient for me. And as I abide here in this meditation, in this communion with the Father, looking only to the Father within, expecting only of the Father, expecting this outflow, holding no man in condemnation, holding no man in bondage or obligation, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Forgive everybody any obligation, legal, marital, any other. Forgive them, so that whatever they share with us is shared not because of a responsibility or duty or relationship, but is shared only through free will, free offering of love. And thereby I sit in my conscious union with God, in my conscious at one-ment with God, and recognize the Father as the Father. Recognize God as all-embracing love. Recognize God as all-sufficiency. And then go about my business, perform every task, duty, obligation in the realization of God fulfilling itself. Then, as we demonstrate that this divine grace is sufficient for all our needs, you know as well as I do what happens among your friends and family, they say, give me some of that too. That must be our contribution to this year, to this life, to this world, to this whole universe, so that it too ultimately may agree the only power is divine grace. Thank you until tomorrow night.